and gentlemen, India has surged past China, United States and Australia. Worryingly, it's about the road death rate. Kilometers. And we're going to be looking at all of that. How much of kilometers, how many deaths? Look at these numbers. India at 250 for 10,000 kilometers. 250 when it comes to the road death rate. China 119, United States 57, Australia 11. This is for per 10,000 kilometers. India is 5 times the US. 5 times the US road death rate and little over half of China. And when you look at the road networks across countries, India is a close second to the United States, followed by China. So if we break these statistics down, look at that. You get a sense of how much is the road networks in US, in India, very close, 6.6, 6.4 million kilometers, and in China it's 5.2, so not much of a difference, but here it is. So if we break down this statistic till now, there's almost 26 kilometers of roads laid per day in India, and that's something that even union ministers have gone out and spoken out of India. And if you take an average of the deaths in a decade, it's an average of 4,191 road accident deaths per day in the last decade. I mean, we cannot forget what happened with Cyrus Mistry. The former chairman of Tata Sons was killed in a car accident on September 4, 2022. The incident occurred near the village of Charoti on the Mumbai-Ahmedabad highway in Maharashtra. Mistry was travelling in a Mercedes car when it crashed into a divider, leading to his untimely death and that of another passenger as well. Then you had, of course, Indian cricketer Rishabh Pant, was involved in a serious accident on December 30th, 2022 while driving on the Delhi-Dehradun highway near Roorkee, Uttarakhand. Pant fell asleep at the wheel, causing his Mercedes to collide with a divider and subsequently catch fire. Glad that he's alive. Deepchand Sidhu, an actor and an activist, died in a road accident on February 15, 2022. The accident took place on the Kundli-Manesar-Palwal Expressway near Delhi. Sidhu's vehicle collided with a truck while he was reportedly driving at high speed late at night. He was pronounced dead. He was in fact pronounced dead at the hospital. Why am I also reminding you of these instances? While these are deeply etched in our memories and we cannot forget these incidents, we're also talking about highways. Whether it be national or state highways network, it constitutes to at least 4.9% of India's total network. That's right, 4.9% of India's total network. Less than 5%. But when it comes to the road death rates and the accident deaths, it constitutes to 60.5% of cases that have been reported across the country over a decade. Even as the registered vehicles on the roads really have more than doubled in a decade. That's right, from 15.9 crores, it's little over double at 38.3 crores. But is it the cars, the speed, or the road designs, or the fatal mix of all three? It was Nitin Gadkari last year who said, "I've never seen people do such a shoddy work. In case of any accident, the driver is blamed. Many times, it is the fault of road engineering. Need to build roads that don't lead to accidents." Well, the numbers are telling. The stakes are very high. 2014 to 23, in a decade, there have been 15.3 lakh deaths recorded according to the Union Road Transport Ministry's data. 15.3 lakhs, and that's higher than the earlier decade, 2004 to 2013. And this data has been accessed by Times of India. This is almost the population of Chandigarh being wiped off. And if this doesn't make a national blind spot, that's literally what we are calling it, a national blind spot, top political priority, and not just a political priority, but also a nation's priority, what will? As I said, we're looking at speed thrills or road design kills. And we all know it's not just these two. It's a fatal concoction of all of these. Allow me to open this up to my panelists at this point. I'm being joined by Hormazd Sorabjee, who's an editor for Autocar India, Manoj Vadva, who's a pothole activist, as well as Rajni Gandhi, who's the General Secretary for Tracks Road Safety. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Mr. Sorabjee, let me come to you first. What do you make out of the data that is out in public? You know, I mean, people are going out. The vehicles, the registrations have more than doubled for that matter. The registered vehicles on roads have more than doubled. We looked at that data. Cars are being bought, safety standards are being looked at. That's also being there. Roads, they've been built, networks have been increased. We've looked at all of that data. But what do you as an expert really look at this data and say?
I think the fundamental problem, which it has always been all this while, the root cause of it is the driver. Quite frankly, it all comes down to our licensing system, which is actually a joke. It's hardly stringent. In fact, it's in places easier to get your license than a passport. In fact, it's acquired sometimes just as a way of identity. And without having proper driver training, which is the root cause, the vehicles are getting faster and more powerful. And that to me is a deadly concoction. While you might keep on blaming the road engineering, actually the roads have gotten better. If you look at, expressways, certain dual carriageways, certain carriageways which are completely cordoned off. In fact, the new generation of highways are pretty good. I mean, you can question the surfacing of it, which is quite terrible. But in terms of, the death trap of the roads, they're primarily the older roads which are there. Obviously, they need to be revamped. And, all the cases you spoke about, each and every one, whether it's Cyrus Mystery or whatever, the root cause was bad driving. That's what it was. And I think, to me, the absolute root cause is driver training. That has to be taken on an absolute war footing. Because really it starts with the driver and, at least a basic semblance of understanding what the regulations are, understanding what your car is capable of, I think would really go a long way in dramatically reducing fatalities on the roadway.
Mr. Sorabjee, let me just defy my pattern itself, and before going to other panelists, let me ask you a second question, since you're talking about the licensing system in India, and it directly impacts the viewers as well. Why are you saying, I mean, you used very strong words. Why are you using that? Help us understand this. Now, when you are saying that it's extremely deceptive, it's very foolish, why is it so? I mean, look at the numbers that India is building in terms of the road networks. Look at the numbers of cars that are on the road. Look at the kind of research that an urban Indian does. Not just an urban Indian. In fact, I may speak more for an urban India because of the channel that we are. But the kind of research that a family does to buy their car, whether it be the first, second, or, n number of car, it's not just off the cuff going to the shop and buying it. So why is license such a big issue?
Well, there's a total difference between doing a research for buying a car and going for a driving license. I mean, today people, if the licensing procedure is going to be easy, that's how it's going to be. I mean, no one's going to, it's like going for an exam. If your pass mark is 35, you're not going to be, let's say, not be satisfied if you don't get 100. It's as simple as that. So I think what I'm saying is we have to look at the way licenses are doled out in this country. I mean, you look at any other country, the licensing system is so strict, people don't even pass it on the first shot. I mean, it's a massive, it's like taking a proper exam from the theory to a very, very stringent driving test where you're tested on the rules, regulations. Today, people don't even know a simple thing like who's got the right of way in a roundabout. No one even knows that. Technically, what the correct thing is, the person in the roundabout has the right of way. Everyone outside the roundabout has to give the person in the roundabout the right of way. Over here, it's a free-for-all. It's whoever gets there first has the right of way. So it just proves the point that people don't even know the basic regulations of or basic traffic rules. And, when you don't know that, you're asking for disaster.
Manoj Vadva, would you concur? Would you agree with what Mr. Sorabjee is saying?
Are you asking me?
That's right, Mr. Manoj Vadva.
Yeah, so I heard the gentleman that so I mean to say, if we are having the faulty license system in India, then who is responsible for issuing the licenses, right? It is the officials, it is the Department of License who are issuing it, right? So ultimately there has to be accountability for issuing the faulty licenses, and not only the road users, the licensing authority should also be punished for issuing the faulty licenses. Number one. Number two, all over the world, the phenomena, the fundamental is the driver will make a mistake. So we need to make the road design in a way that driver will make a mistake. We need to make the roads in a way that we can save the driver even after making the mistakes also. We have not to kill the driver, right? We are not to design the roads to kill the driver. Okay, आपने गलती कर दी, अब तो आपको मरना ही पड़ेगा. We can't have this fundamental applicable for our road designing. So we need to hold accountability for the road contractors and the officials who are designing the road, which are getting faulty, which are getting potholes appear very sooner, even after one rain or so. Immediately after first rain, you get so many potholes on the road. So who is actually accountable then? It's if it is only the road user, then you don't need to have the department like NHAI, right? What their job is then? If they are not accountable for making the good roads, then what they are accountable for then? What they are paid for? Right. So ultimately, we need to set the accountability right. If we don't have the accountability, and Mr. Nitin Gadkari also agreed multiple times that there is a fault of the road designing also. If he is accepting that, okay, there is a fault, then he should also bring a law to make them accountable. If I am not wearing the helmet, if I am not wearing the seat belt, I am accountable for paying the challan, heavy challan, in fact. But if somebody is killing me because of the pothole of the faulty road, they are not held accountable. They are not getting punishment. It is always a road user who is at the receiving end, who is also paying the penalty and who is also getting died because of the faulty roads.
Mr. Vadva, let me ask you a question. You have personally gone through a huge tragedy. You've lost a dear family member because of an accident due to pothole. Has anything changed? I mean, elections are there in Maharashtra. Do you see a change at all? Is this a priority? Because potholes do become, every time there's an accident because of potholes, you have journalists going down, you have them measuring the potholes, you go there, there's a political war of words. Do you see the pothole menace decline, even in states like Maharashtra, in cities like Mumbai?
No, not at all, because until we have a defined law for punishing the contractors and the official, until we make them accountable for the poor roads, there will not be any improvement because they don't have any fear of law. If I am not wearing the helmet, you might heard many a times we are wearing the seat belt just to make sure that we no need to pay challan at the next junction of like police might be there and they will asking for the challan to us. Many people wear the helmet and the seat belt because of the fear of the challan, right? Because the contractors and the officials don't have any fear of law, they don't have anything to make them accountable, they don't get punishment, they could then don't get challan also. That's why they don't have any fear as well. So that's why until we have a law for them as well, there will be no improvement. Even I have handed over the proposal in hand to Mr. Gadkari. He agreed to me that proposals are very good, but as of now I don't see any improvement, any movement in that area. If they are talking about any law, we have proposed a very simple law, like we can order a food and food can be delivered to our house in 30 minutes. But we can't repair a road in 3 days, 4 days after the complaint. So until we have a law to bound them with a timeline and with the quality also, there will be not be any improvement. It will be only a talks going on between us. Very good that you are bringing this topic every time. I can see the Mirror now is putting very hard efforts to at least bring this topic every time up in the media and in the common people's knowledge. And but I don't see any willpower or any willingness to bring this law by the politicians or our officials who are responsible actually for saving our life.
Rajni Gandhi, do you want to take it from here? Is it a national blind spot? You heard Mr. Vadva say it's an absolute lack of political will. You heard Mr. Sorabjee as well. He spoke about how it's a free-for-all licensing system almost. I mean, he didn't say in as much words, but almost implying that. Do you see it as a complete lack of political will? Do you see it as a national blind spot? I'm asking you because of the numbers. India is literally surpassed China and United States when it comes to the road crash rate, for that matter. That's hugely concerning.
Actually, you are right. And that is a direct question on the commitment for road safety. We have been observing, and there are numbers in front of us. Unfortunately, last year report also again saying the number of deaths have been increased. We are the signatory of Decade of Action, and 2030 we have a target to reduce to at least 50% fatalities we have to reduce. But somewhere we are lack of
Correct.
entirely approach. It is not just a central government, it is a state government issue, moreover. Till the time the state governments will not come forward from district committees to central committees or the state committees on road safety, they will not take it as a clean India mission. And as especially you have also mentioned in the beginning about the role of safe infrastructure, that is the basic need. And we need to understand the road safety pillars where infrastructure and enforcement, that is the two major pillars and the base for road safety. We are not providing the best roads in case of the existing one. We do not have that type of safety. Forgiving roads are nowhere. There is a culture to have a study on the behavior of the people, that till what extent a road user will make a mistake, and accordingly we have to create an infrastructure. But I'm sorry to say we haven't seen such a role modeling till in India. And that is an eye opening stage, because next year we have the fourth ministerial conference where Decade of Action assessment is also going on in the mid of 2025. So this is very important to understand why the driving license system is to be considered again, and why the offender policy system is to be introduced soon, because the existing road users has to understand what is their role on the road. And third, very important thing, we have a very small tool in our hand, but we haven't seen the state governments are coming forward and implementing it in that way. Why the fake helmets are available? We have seen number of case studies where more than 50% market is full of fake helmet and non-standardized. We have more than 30% data of deaths where people have lost their life just because of non-wearing of helmet. And why we have that 138(4)(f) CMVR rule, which says you will get a helmet with a bike. So why such implementations are we are not considering, which can be possible? You can reduce 30% fatalities just having implementation of a helmet law. And while you are working on the safe infrastructure with an enforcement, in the metro cities, we can see some enforcement. But beyond that, where are we standing? It is a time to analyze decades. We are losing decades, we are losing people. And unfortunately, the image of the nation is not going right.
Mr. Sorabjee, we just heard Ms. Rajni speak, and she spoke about this target that India has, and Gadkari himself has spoken about this. He has spoken about how India achieves or at least aims to reduce road fatalities, road accident fatalities by 50% by 2030. As it stands, that seems like a rhetoric. It seems far from possible. But what would you say should be the priority points at this point for India?
I mean, I've said it before, it's got to be driver training. I mean, we can all talk about the roads, and I completely agree. Our roads are abysmal and they're responsible for a lot of deaths. But let's be honest, they're not going to improve. Enforcement is also going to be very challenging. It's not possible to do it. We'll keep talking on these programs. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is take your life in your own hands and drive in a way that you're getting into a war zone. Just imagine this. Every time you get into the road, you're going into a war zone. It's like telling a soldier, that the only way to keep him safe is to stop the other side from firing at him. The same way, you want the roads to improve. It's not going to happen. You've got to take care of yourself. And that's really the reality of it. And that I think we need a reality check that, while we can go on talking about the roads, and I think it's a good cause, they shouldn't stop, fighting for that. The reality is it's not going to happen in a hurry. I'll give you one example of what I try and do every year. And this is for my personal thing. I drive from Mumbai to Mahabaleshwar on NH66, which has been a death trap for a long time because it's an unfinished highway, multiple lanes. I do it in the night. I do it in the monsoon. Zero visibility is probably the most dangerous way to do it, but it keeps me sharp. I understand what the dangers are. So I know that in a normal road, if I can drive on that, I'll be fine driving in normal conditions. I mean, I have to drive all kinds of cars and in different terrains as part of my job, but that is my own certification. I go on what I think is the most dangerous road in the night, in pouring rain, with trucks coming all over you, and you have to drive defensively. That's really what it is, and you have to keep speed in check. Speed really is the biggest killer. And that's what it is, because speed is a function of your own reaction time, a function of the impact. So I think that's also what we need to do, is that people have to realize to keep a safety margin or a safety envelope in whatever condition they drive. So I still think it's driver training, improving your driving skills to manage what is not going to improve, though it should improve. And again, I completely agree with our panelists. The roads are absolutely abysmal. They need to really be improved. But until then, you have to take charge of your own kind of situation.
Mr. Sorabjee, let me just take this further. So, often in urban households, now you have parents saying, we won't give our children a two-wheeler. Two-wheelers is extremely dangerous on Indian roads. Then you have the other extreme where you're looking for five-star cars, five-star safety for the cars that you're buying. You're seeing what is the best options available in the market. And then you have speed. You have highways, expressways, which allow you enormous speed. You may not compare it to countries like, say, in the Middle East or in the United States. Nonetheless, it's much better than what it was a few years back in India. How does an ordinary person veer through this?
Well, I think, again, as you rightly said, I think it's all about controlling the speed, because the faster you go, the more chance there is of driver error. And, while you may have a five-star car, I mean, the idea is to have a car where you can control better, which doesn't necessarily go very fast, because the safest accident is one that doesn't happen at all. So I think really, again, it's really down to speed and understanding what your limits are and the car's limit. So it again goes back to that very valid point that you may have good highways, and on certain highways, 120 can be extremely safe. There are certain highways which I've seen, new roads, which, are extremely safe. At the same time, you've got other highways where even 60 kilometers is unsafe. So it's very, very dynamic. And it's all then down to the driver with the right experience, with the right mindset, with the right attitude to kind of navigate through these different situations. That's why it has to start in schools, in classrooms, to explain the importance of road safety even before they get their license.
Manoj Vadva, you said you have reached out to the government, to the Gadkari ministry as well, with your suggestions, recommendations. Could you give us a brief 3 big highlights of what your recommendations are? And as you claim that Mr. Gadkari even said he would look into these.
So basically what we are suggesting that every road user should be having a right to complain that of a faulty road. If he sees a pothole or a road designing issue, he should be able to complain via multiple media. It can be via GPS location tracking, it can be via phone number or via the email. Once the complaint reaches to the department, he has to acknowledge and recognize that this road is lying to under which contractor and which government officials. They should be lined up to resolve the ticket as soon as possible. We are recommending 2 to 3 days time at a max, because in that time also the pothole can kill somebody, right? So this is the emergency situation. If the person is not rectifying the issue immediately, he should be challaned, let's say, for 1 lakh, because we are also paying for the not wearing the helmet 2,000 or 5,000 nowadays. So why the contractor cannot pay this much of amount of not maintaining the road properly? If somebody died because of the road, faulty road, which is complaint already, it comes under 3042. It is a law. If something is already in your notice and somebody dies, then the law says that it is called culpable homicide not amounting to murder. Then the particular contractor and the official both should be charged and tried under the 3042, which is culpable homicide not amounting to murder. If we have such kind of a law, fear of law for the contractors and the officials, that as I previously said, if we can order a food in 30 minutes, why we can't repair a road which is in your notice already in 3 days time? If they are not able to repair it, it means they are not fulfilling the requirement of a road user. We are paying all the taxes, all the recommended taxes which our government is suggesting to us. We are not able to bargain in that sense also. Then please give us the good services, save our life. You are responsible for saving our life. This is our right to live, right? We can't say that we are running on a high speed. Everything
Right.
is defined and designed by the other person. Like we are having the speed limit also defined in the car. We are not defining the car. We are not designing the car. We are only the using that
Right.
particular service, right? So if we are paying for it, somebody should be held accountable. If they are not making it correctly, then there should be punishment also for them.
Okay, Rajni Gandhi, my last question to you. We have the Good Samaritan law. In fact, India is at a place where laws or the dearth of laws doesn't really seem to be an issue. But look at what the Good Samaritan law suggests, the recommendations, the must-dos under the Good Samaritan law. A far cry. Look, where are the trauma centers? How many trauma centers do we have? Where are the first responders? Nothing of that is a reality despite a law. Is that a big part of the problem?
In case of Good Samaritan Act, I must say that, yes, that is an issue, a post-crash care issue, where one of the panelists has mentioned about the right of way also for the ambulance and everything. So if we talk about the Good Samaritan law, many of the state governments are coming forward. They are trying to encourage people to help the road crash victim. But there is one of the major problem is that if we do not know how to help a road crash victim, unfortunately, if we today ask what is our national emergency number, I will be surprised, and you will be also surprised, that many of the people will not be aware about the national emergency number. So if, as a Good Samaritan law, I am coming forward and I have to know my rights and my responsibility, I need to understand from the perspective that I'm getting such knowledge and I'm getting such training in a vast way. Such information should be reached to the public in a good way. But as you have mentioned, in case of a trauma center, we also encourage that. We have also give the suggestion about it, that if trauma centers are not available, so we need to encourage the perfect systems where ambulances are there, equipped with full of system there. After every some kilometers in the city area or a national highway we do have, but I think there we need to work. Many of the people in today's time also, they don't know that after a crash, you don't have to provide water to a road crash victim. But people are doing so because we are not aware what is Good Samaritan Act actually. And that is required a training, that is required a system. Along with that, the system for the post-crash care at the trauma centers, and needs to encourage more and more. And for that, we require the neurologist also, because many crashes, many fatalities are happening because people are not reaching timely
very important
to the hospital.
points, but these are far from what the reality in India really is. And since you mentioned, and since you mentioned about the national emergency number, helpline number, I think we must just tell this to our viewers in case they don't know, as you claim that most would not know. It is 112, and one must know that for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm totally out of time. Mr. Sorabjee, if I can very quickly come to you, 30 seconds. How do you, as an expert, very closely related to this domain, do you see this as a national blind spot? Is India awake to this as a priority? Is it a big concern for India?
I think absolutely this is a national emergency as well. And, honestly, I think the only one really talking about it in the government, I think I really would be say hats off to Mr. Gadkari. At least he acknowledges it. I think it's very difficult to do something about it, but it is not only a national blind spot, it's a national emergency. The road deaths are alarmingly going up. Because the cars are getting faster, the licensing is getting easier. There are more people on the road, and that really is a cocktail for absolute disaster.
Thank you very much to our panelists. We just hope that our viewers are far more equipped, and we very, very strongly hope that the government will be paying attention to this discourse. Mr. Sorabjee, Manoj Vadva, as well as Rajni Gandhi, thank you very much for joining us, for sparing us your time. Thank you very much, all three of you.